Hello everybody, welcome back to The Desk. Mars 1, Initialize, and Nymera.
That's right.
Gentlemen, yes, hello. Welcome back to The Desk, everybody. LJL, day number 13, game number 2 is upon us, and it is Detonation FocusMe facing off against the Fukuoka SoftBank HAWKS Gaming. Now, the HAWKS do look better than they have looked. They had a very strong game over Axis, who look like they might be having a glow-up moment. So, I mean, if a team's having a bit of a glow-up and the team that it beat them, hey, lads, I'm trying to give some copium to the Hawk fan out there because let's be real, DFM are mad, and we've seen Initialize. I've got to come to you first, Initialize.
Did you just say the Hawk fan out there?
Yes, I'm talking...
Singular.
I'm talking to Counterfeit directly. Because I got to come to you, Initialize. DFM are angry, and we know what happens when they're angry.
Things tend to go poorly, and we saw what happened with Darius, and Tol2 got decimated.
One way?
In one way or another. Exactly. Yeah. The Darius Q landed a few times, and bad things happened. On top of that, yes, Hawks are turning things around, but bluntly, they have not lived up to expectations yet. And if they are going to start, it has to be now. Take this win, and the road to playoffs can go on. You've got a big ticket on your name, where you can sort of build up some momentum. That said, even if they lose today, it's not over anything for them, but I need to see at least some improvement. They can't capitulate.
Yeah, no, this is very much a bonus to the triple round robin. You know, they're sat at 3-9. You know, in the old system, you'd only get 14 games. So you'd only have 2 games left to try and scare you into playoffs. They now have a whole other 7 to put on top of that to get 21 total. If they get into playoffs, there's a chance that they can make something work. And we know that the last team that Blank was on in the LJL in Sengoku back in 2020 took a while to get rolling. Not as long as this. It's not completely out of the storybook, though.
No, and they have got some pretty good bot lane insurance, but the team really needs to come together because while we've seen occasional performances and it's decent showing, it's still left to right, back to back every single time. You look at it and you look at the nameplates and you go, yeah, but it's DFM, and DFM have looked so good. Initialize, what are you feeling about the top side and the rest of this match?
Here's my worry. Is like, you can see the Hawks players have hands, but those hands aren't playing at the same time. Like there's like lag between teammates. Never mind, you know, like and the disconnect to what hurting. And the problem is on the other side, you're looking at a team like DFM who are all fluent in Japanese. That's the scary thing about the Koreans that have come in. Like we know that, you know, like people like Yahoo speak great Japanese, and they've also got hands. Underline that a couple times. Like these guys are arguably the best damn mechanical players in the whole of the LJL and are incredibly coordinated. You don't just get to play a hands game against DFM. It does not work.
But Nymera, where is the angle for the Hawks then? If they can't play through hands, they can't play through macro, what do they have?
I feel like, so we saw DFM lose, obviously, for the first time, the split against Ras and Jester, and my view on that game was that DFM had a win condition which wasn't team fighting. It was to play through through side lanes, and they still tried to just outplay. In fact, Yahrong had an interview, which was translated by Hina, or it might have been Umi as well. But anyway, check in on their Twitters. It'll be on one of them. And what Yahrong was saying is that we believe that as long as we just played well, it doesn't matter what happens with our composition and stuff. We'll just do fine, right? But effectively, he said that they weren't clean enough. They didn't necessarily understand like their draft at that point. They fell behind a little bit, and then they ended up losing. So the angle for the Hawks is kind of hoping that you can pull DFM away from their win conditions. I think what you do is if you see them drafting a comp towards one thing, play something completely different and try and get them to play outside of the box and try and commit to the hands check.
See that.
And actually just see if you can beat them.
I gotta push you further, though. I gotta push you further, Nymera, though, because you're saying this idea, and this sounds lovely. I love Magical Christmas Light. You know this. So what does Magical Christmas Light actually look like then? Because I want some examples of champions or ideas. All right, Initialize, you take it.
Concrete options. Get Dasher counterpick. Get yourself something that can like hold its own on top side, and then basically you want to go for a 1-4 with Blank really tracking steel. Get something like Aurelia for Dasher. Have, I don't know, Jin Zillion. Give me something that can just sit in mid lane and follow up. Go with the volley bear as well. Go full ERL
like
on this.
Or you could go like full Kai'Sa, actually.
Yeah. AP Kai'Sa.
Yeah.
Well, just Kai'Sa in general, just being able to roam to the sidelines and stuff. I think if DFM commit to team fights, go towards the side lanes. If they commit towards the side lanes, go towards the team fights. Try them, pull them apart on a philosophical level.
Like, you can't hands check them alone, but if you can hand check plus sort of like play style check them, so like make some difficult decisions with the hands, maybe then you've got some options. I still think it's a long shot.
never know what to do with my hands. It's what I do when I'm on camera.
It's true. You do have some interest. You got like a weird like things. Yeah.
Right, of course, yes. But in reality, all these players do have hands as they are in the LJL. And I want to take it to that mid matchup because Dasher was obviously historically the second best mid in 2021 overall. Arya was first place. And as it's looked currently, Yaharong has rather filled Arya's shoes rather aptly. While he might not be gapping people in the same way, he's rather competent.
Yeah, he absolutely is. But I'll talk on Yaharong in a second because I want to say as well for Dasher, this guy is like pulling up insane numbers for being on a.
He is playing a lot of champions, sir, that make him look very good.
True, but
an obscene amount of champions, and gets a lot of counter pick.
Pulling out a 12.3 CS a minute or CSD.
Only 6 minutes.
Pulling out a ridiculous DPM. He's doing really good.
No, like, I can't listen to this blasphemy, Nymera. I disagree strongly with the read of initialize here.
I mean, so I do think that Dasher, like, his laning phase is not the issue. That hasn't been the issue. I think that Dasher has been fine. I think he's been fine to good. I just think that this is the benchmark for, this is where the second best mid laner was last split. Now you've got Jet, you've got Yaharong, you've got other people who are really stepping up, and I think this is the strongest the mid lane talent pool in the LJL has maybe ever looked.
Oh,
and I think that reflects negatively on Dasher. Now, is he the perfect player at this point? Is he actually doing as well as he was last split? I'm actually not sure he is. I think that when you saw him playing like the Akali games and really starting to pop off on the Hawks, I think that was very, very exciting to see. He's not been able to drag his team by the scruff of the neck as well as he did last split.
Yeah, that's true. To justify my point a little, basically what I'm saying is like, look, you can see the guy has hands. Like he's, even when the team is falling apart, he's still putting up good numbers. And that's quite hard to do considering the situations, right? And as we said, the mid lane pool has improved and he's still managing to put out really excellent numbers. I just don't think the coordination is there to make anything of it. And that's my issue with Hawks. Give me an easy way for Dasher to do something.
We'll have to wait and see how they're going to do it, because, gentlemen, pick and ban phase is upon us, and I want to see a Galio, please. Ladies and gentlemen, Must One is going, because Initialize and Nymera are going to take you away on a magical carpet ride.
I can show you the draft.
We're going on a magical draft ride into the pick and ban phase. You can see that Rise has been taken away from Dasher.
Yes,
incredible.
So it has.
Wow, first 3 bans. So
that's a very blue-themed ban phase from DFM.
But what I really like from DFM going through these bans...
Are we changing voices now?
Well, I can't commit to that for too long.
Keyed up.
No, it takes like mana from me. You know, like it's one of my abilities.
As in bread from heaven?
No, that's a hymn from Wales, bread of heaven.
Bread of.
But what we see DFM doing
even website towards a Welsh accent there.
So what DFM and Hawks are doing was trying to do the handshake on the bans of Jinx. So the Hawks could have picked that Jinx then. Okay. They could have picked the Jinx. They chose the Tryndamere. Now, remember what we were saying about Hawks. What you really want to do is pull DFM away stylistically from you and then fight towards your win conditions and hope they just engage with you.
Yep.
So if you pick Jinzao and you pick Jinx and they pick towards the Tryndamere, you just team fight. You don't commit to the side lanes. You don't try and do that. Try and make DFM fight through side lanes again. Try and make them team fight with a team comp that's meant to fight through side lanes. That's probably not a bad thing for them. Of course, it's not as simple as that. The FM still look incredible with stuff like the Tryndamere. Ebby has had a new lease on life, and he was already flourishing last split.
We've seen more champions out of him this split than I've seen in a very, very long time, and very different styles of champions. Tryndamere, Darius, Fiora, Camille. Like, it's been great stuff. And speaking of Kai'Sa, Utapon debating on going back to an old faithful for him. And if you want to follow up on a Tryndamere in a side lane, Kai'Sa's not a bad way to do that. Debating this as an option. I wonder whether Varus might be the take, but instead they go towards the Kai'Sa. So what do you pair it with?
So just remember, this is a flex. You can actually play it in mid lane.
Yes.
It is actually a flex into mid lane. Like, memes aside, as much as, you know, we cast it and saw one of the first games of mid Kai'Sa being played on the ERL stages. There is a chance for this to get flexed into something which is particularly weak at level 1, level 2, and allows you to scale up into the game. However, Kai'Sa Nautilus, incredibly strong combo, likely to be that pairing, especially with a lot of the S tier AD carries now off the board.
Okay, debating now going for something like the Gwen, which of course does scale pretty well herself. And if you can tank through the ultimate, maybe even think about running the exhaust instead of something like the Ghost, you might be able to trade this one out. Not the easiest time here for Gwen, so determined to see what she does to deal with it. Of course, not a bad scaling champion, pretty good weak side if you need it to be. Still got to work out what they want to do with their support and, of course, probably mid lane, unless there's some real shenanigans going on.
So, Hawks got the message from that last game, which we played, of course, on the Darius, where, yeah, poor Axe has got a bit hammered.
Got to remember as well that Yaharon plays Tryndamere, so they're having to bat away some options away from Ebby in case they flex that one as well.
Yes,
so.
well, no, they have, DFM genuinely have a decent amount of flex potential here. Now, Hawks do have last pick. They're going to get the last ability to decide the lane matchups, which they're playing into. But still, DFM having this going into 4-5 means that the Hawks don't necessarily have a safe blind pick to go towards right here. Well, I mean, they just probably just pick support on a 4, actually. Think about that, I'm dumb. But yeah, they're going to pick support on 4, most probably. Because particularly
Thresh
DFM...
possibly here, I feel, is probably an easy ban, unless they feel they played that one pretty well with Nautilus.
If you pick Thresh, then you have very little engage. So I think that Leona is maybe a little better, but Thresh does help you disengage from the Tryndamere quite well, yeah.
And of course, it's generally a fairly good pairing with Jinx in lane. Still debating on this last ban, letting the clock time out. They go towards Set instead, which of course is an old school Rhina special.
Yeah. Well, that and his Rel. I mean, I don't necessarily like Rel into Nautilus. I think that because you can cancel it with a hook level 1, the crash down.
You literally crashed down to the ground in a lot of pain.
This is a different one, and this is now pretty scary for the side of DFM. 2 low range carries in the Kai'Sa and the Tryndamere. If you run into the hostile takeover and go berserk, that's a hell of a lot of damage.
Well, time to see whether Hawks have paid their dues for the loyalty program. Renata Glass locked in. Steel thinking going back towards his Nidalee, which of course is one of his old school slight flexes. They could absolutely.
They could 4-5 Renex in Nidalee. Okay. Get to see Yaharon's Ari, so I get to cast myself another one of my main champion. I have been so coddled this split. I have been so
after years of Ari being very mediocre.
Ari being so mediocre, absolutely. Now, sadly for me, this is probably going to be another Everfrost game. Looking at the champions on the team, you just want to see okay, cool, it's Root in place. So it's not going to be full-on assassin, dive in, kill everyone, especially with the champions on your team. But still, get to cast that and see what they pair it up with the jungle.
Okay.
I love this heavy dive combo. Looking forward to see how this pans out.
All I'll say is heavy dive into Renata can be problematic because if you time the ultimate right, you dive in just to be horribly CC. Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, there's still the option to counter pick here. Vigar as well would make that very tricky. Lots to navigate for DFM if they go towards it. Instead, thinking about maybe a Vex, who of course can punish the great amount of dashes. Literally everybody on DFM has a fair amount of ability.
Yes. So it's also a fine lane matchup into the Ari. It can be a little awkward for the Ari level 1 because you trade with the passive, with the Fear and the E having very high base damages. And as much as you can W out of it if you're good, it's very much on the spacing that you have in this matchup. So I very much like this mid lane matchup. It's a more interactive one for these two champions.
Of course, DFM can play towards team fights with this comp, but I think actually they've probably got better options to split and roam actually because Jarvan and Kai'Sa and Kai'Sa, Carven, Ari finding ways to jump to a side lane, probably onto the Tryndamere or the Ari, whichever side lane, is pretty nasty, and that could make the solo laners' jobs for Hawks. I need to call them Axis. The other yellow team.
I'd say the old slip up we used to have is it was SHG and SG. So we used to call the Hawks Sengok all the time. And the Sengok to the Hawks.
Yeah, those tricodes.
Never have I ever thought that we would be Axis instead.
But there we go. Very different drafts here. Looking at it as it is, I think both teams feeling like they have ways to play this game, but there's a comp you personally prefer.
So, I mean, I very much like the dynamics of what DFM have got. They have ways to play through early lanes on bot side. They have the ability to gank an early lane with the Jarvan. I think that they have a lot of mechanics to get ahead in the game quite naturally and then stay ahead. However, I think if you overextend into a Vex, into a Renata, things get very, very difficult. So in terms of, do I prefer a comp? I mean, that's entirely down to execution. Most of the time, you just pin that on DFM. You say, oh, DFM are playing. Sweet. They'll probably just outplay.
They'll execute, yeah.
But I really like what has been put on the table from both teams. So I'm going to completely water it down, your question, and be like, Yo.
There we go. And game about to head on to the Rift will transition on in. I believe, is this our first LJL, Renata? Did we see any on Wednesday?
We've seen it before.
We've seen it on Wednesday. I had a moment thinking, did we see it on Wednesday? I couldn't quite recall. But thank you to production in my ear for telling me we absolutely had. So this will not be the first. But of course, Renata, I've been chatting a fair amount with Gulborg, who
does play a lot of the champion.
He's played a lot of the champion. We'll leave it at that. He has
maternal issues aside,
spamming his way through it. Yes, we won't start referencing old Greek plays right now. And you have
don't eat a pussyfoot around the subject.
That would have been great. That would have been great if you hadn't messed up the phrasing.
Shut up.
It was so close.
The idea which counts. And of course, the most important thing which I need to
Freudian slip
talk about this. Of course, that's the KDA Ari skin. That's actually pretty high up in my tier list for Ari skins. It's pretty far up there. Don't talk about bot lane. Go back to mid.
Renata, that's a lot of damage onto Renata Glask, who's feeling more like a Glask cannon right now. Getting a little bit chunked out at the early levels. Of course, does have some pots to chunk through. And correction from production. We have not seen Renata. My remembrances were correct.
Well, we've seen it right now. That's
So
the
this
important
will
thing. I was
be-
like, you know what? I wasn't casting the last day. That's fine. This is the first one that I've seen. Wow, you can join me in my enjoyment of this champion.
So yeah, this is the first Renata. See what Reiner can do on it. You can see when the power spikes come through. Relatively even mid-game spiking there for HAWKS, but then of course towards the later stages, Trendemir becomes an absolute disaster to deal with. Kai'Sa be able to blow somebody up with a Q. You can see where the options are. Just a lot of good go buttons from DF and a lot of ways to play the map out.
I mean, that graph says certain things which I just completely disagree with. It's
interesting.
Yeah, because you can fight very early in a 2v2 or 3v3 setting in the bot lane. I think that mid lane also has options. Look, they're looking at that option right now.
Of course, you can see the top end of your screen blank, just about off vision. So he'll be heading onto his Raptors. Can Steel find the engage? Flash for the charm! Just goes wide. But now Dasher needs to find his way out. Will manage to sidestep his way to safety. Here comes Blank to come in. Does get a lot of damage with the fear, and Yaharan goes down for first blood. Fancy footwork in the moment we ask for a hands check, he brings it out.
Yeah, but it's an absolute disaster from DFM. You could flash for a slow from Steel, doesn't do it.
Or wait for it up,
okay.
In so much trouble, can't quite die. So the heal will keep him alive, and Utapon will burn his flash as well. Potential punish now available for someone like Blank, but summoners down across the board for junglers, mid laners, AD carries.
And you know, we were talking about, there's sometimes the FM will just try and hands check you. Well, it turns out they just flub themselves on the cube. Good look at this. Like, I mean, you burn the passive from Dasher. That's the go button. You're like, okay, cool. That's more than fine. They don't get to be able to cancel the flash and drag. That's the flag and drag. What you should do now is Steel, flash for the slow. Flash. Oh, you don't have a red buff. That's why you don't have red buff.
Yes,
Either way, you could flash in for the W slow. That's a big one as well. And then it's effectively undodgeable at that point. That shouldn't be a contested play. That should just be a kill DFM greeter.
Okay. See the options there, and Blank, nice counter gank, pulls off the Raptors, gets over there. Of course, not the end of the world right now, but a frustrating moment nonetheless. Checking on those top lane summon as well. It is the exhaust teleport for Kinatsu. Did decide to run into that ghost ignite for Rebby, who is
the tutorial summoner spells.
Yeah, well, I think in this game that's kind of the way the Trinity wants to play it. Just stay in that lane, moisturized, focused, thriving, all of those other words.
But I mean, if we are talking about tutorial, this is going to be Baby's first introduction to split pushing on both of these accounts. Of course, Trinity just wants to sit there, eventually build up a load of items and take down a load of towers. Tends to be very powerful for that champion.
Absolutely, still early game, very even. Slight gold lead to HAWKS, of course, off that first blood. But they'll need to do more than that to convert this into a game win. Steals down towards bot side to see whether he can punish the fact that Reiner has got no flash. There's no heal. Blank's on his way, but I think he might be too late. Surely he will be. They've got to make the play now because he's cutting down. They know this might be an option. Harp thinking about it, and he'll just pull away as Steel recalls. Blank is there. This would be a lane gank if he wanted to come in.
Yeah, so they did have the flash on Harp, potentially able to
recall. There you go.
Towards a play. It's now going to be a 3v2 on the other side. Blank here to help the wave crash in. Of course, that was a very dangerous moment. Not quite finding the timing to do so, but Blank here to support his duty.
Spotted him with the Void Seeker. There we go. Both junglers look into bot lane. Neither find what they came for.
It's just from Utapon with love. So, okay, looking back out towards the wider map, now we see that DFM, they had the options to play early. They played towards that mid jungle. They kind of messed it up. They tried to do the same in the 2v2, couldn't find an opening there. So now the Hawks outlasting a little bit of one of the strong points of the game here.
Is level 6. Ebby's
Oh,
thrown down the
Kinatu.
rage. Gonna go spinning forwards. Kinatu's been ignited. There's the exhaust, but it's too little. It's too late. Ebby's final tick of the burn will bring him down.
They tried him mid, tried him bot, actually find their advantages in the top lane, and Kinatu just doesn't find the XP he needs. Just doesn't find it. It's flat out. Misses on the XP check and gets punished for it.
When in doubt, play towards the oldest synergy on the camera. So that was an interesting hitbox. Of course, the turnaround will be there with the flame jumpers, but not too much more to get right home about. And I'll be backing out of that. The ignite came through from Harp there. Interestingly, thought we might be able to get a bit more out of it, but weren't quite able to. Now, maybe you can think about just seeing whether there's a scuttle crab to start up there. You can see just Yaharon and Steel just looking to combine together to see whether there was something available. Wasn't really. Take that one and leave it as is. Go back to about even. That's pretty much all she wrote home about right now. Hawks, though, are managing to hold on for now.
So, let's think about what this means going further forwards, though, because DFM are looking for certain advantages to play around side lanes. Now, having Trinity with an advantage is very dangerous for the Hawks. We'll see what happens with the CS and how that kind of ends up evening up. Outside of that, I think that DFM can't realistically fight, though, if you have leads on someone like the Jin Zhao, actually, that can stop that front line being so easy to pick off. It allows you to walk in with a lot more boldness into areas of the map. Early kill onto Blank very much helps what Hawks want to achieve, because it helps them kind of set up correctly for the fight and hold their battle lines against the dive of DFM. Of course, there's not been a lot that's happened in this game so far. Neither have these teams committed to an early Dragon. There is a Herald now on the table. Bot lanes have reset, but neither support has gone towards it.
Not yet. Dragons, as you said, not taking it. Yeah, Cloud Drake, of course, neither team necessarily willing to set that up. And honestly, that's because bot lane priority has been a little bit tempestuous. It's been pretty contested. Same for mid lane. Ari and Vex both been trading relatively heavily at points, looking for ins. Of course, there was the first blood situation we all saw down there. Black might now be looking for it.
Crisis, one might say.
Remember, Steel just had used his flag for vision, had to back away.
Oh,
Shadow Surge just wide, but now big trade onto Dasher in turn. He gets chunked down to about half HP, and Ebby's coming down. He's got a dying rage. I think Dasher's going to have to die. Flash here, or just die. The slow comes through, but it's not quite enough, and he does have to burn. Heals himself up with the Q.
And Yarong not pulling the ult there, wanting to save that, but Dasher blowing the flash. Still pretty important. He's able to pick up the waves. It's actually not the worst thing ever. He's going to be able to reset. Actually thinking of it, just trying to think about the waves. It's a cannon wave. You have to back before the cannon wave to pick it up. Means that Blank is having to be called over. Trade is minimal reward for DFM in terms of the immediate value, but still, they'll take another summoner away from one of the biggest playmakers the Hawks have.
But what it does mean is now with no ultimate, no flash, no HP, no mana, they do get the Herald, and suddenly that lead, or what the advantage from it, gets a little heavier, especially considering everyone else on DFM didn't burn ultimates to get those in trade.
That's a big point, actually, yeah, because you probably could have picked up that kill if you wanted to, as Yaharong, if you flash ulted, autoed a couple of times, because there was no passive left. You could probably go pick it up, particularly with Abby taking aggro. Chose not to dive that deep, though. I was thinking, like, that's my mindset. That's my solo queue. I've seen this happen in my solo queue, too. Kinatsu just getting wailed on.
He's nearly got exhausted, but I think it might be too late. He doesn't have anything resembling a flash. There's a cataclysm. Might be able to go over the wall. An undying range means that the needlework won't bring the barbarian down. Just a nice acupuncture session.
This has been the go-to for DFM for years. It is, when in doubt, gank Ebby, see what happens. Steel and Ebby, actually in some of the best forms that I've seen regionally for them for such a long time. Now, we know that these two popped off internationally. We know that they had a good showing at the World Championship. But to see them so confidently come into the next split and potentially build on that success is huge for this team.
Yeah, and the trade will be a Dragon. The trade will be a red buff Steel, but I think you still take that very happily. And this top lane matchup in general, this is one that last year was when we were hyping up Kinatu, the rookie.
The new kid.
Destroying Ebby's Gnar with the Camille with a couple solo kills, getting some big wins there. And this time around, it's been Ebby that's been clearly coming out on top. Charm landing there will chunk Dasher out a bit. DFM just aware they might be getting ganked towards the spot side as Blank comes on down. Can Unipon stay safe? He really wants to be around for this wave if he can.
He has Cleanse, has Flash, has the ult. Kind of hard to shut this champion down at that point, particularly when you don't have the most dedicated engage, which is not going to be a problem in the 5v5s because, of course, Vex kind of adds to that to an extent. It's not going to be like the last game we saw the Vex and the Kennen both kind of overlapping stuff, but still, Hawks have options outside of their support and their jungle role to kind of help them find multiple targets, and doesn't exactly help them in the dive right there, though.
I wonder whether there might be just a little look in there, but decided against that. Nothing going on there. Just with Renata in the bush, like, could be dangerous. DFM now return to the scene of the crime. Will be back onto this Herald. Of course, they did decide to pull off that to go for the gank on top side, which of course got a kill over onto Kinatsu, who fell down. So this is now going to be claimed a little later than perhaps is standard, but it will be around for when the dragon and stuff probably comes up.
We do have Rhinos, Renata heading up towards top side. Ebby out in the middle of nowhere does have ult and a ghost, but he's probably going to have to blow one of them. Oh,
there's Rhino. You get to handshake Ebby and pull him back in. That's a very aggressive handshake. Firm handshake Renata has. There's Steel. Just seeing whether he can get range for a Cataclysm, but not quite. As you said, Ebby just didn't have to bet anything. Just like, can I get these Raptors? No, I can't. No, sad.
Not allowed. Verboten. Rhino still hanging around that top side, left both AD carries towards bot.
So many control walls everywhere.
Yes, but they are being lost.
Yes.
And every time you lose them, there's 30 gold over to the enemy team. You've lost 75. It's a 100 gold swing, actually. Every control will take. Which is something which I believe LS was talking about in terms of overbuying control walls can actually be a bit of a problem because financially that can be a bit of a blow to you. I remember a lot of teams doing that earlier in the season.
That's a great ward.
But as it stands, though, it's still better than losing XP, losing gold because your laners are dying because they can't see anyone coming. And it just stymies what Steel wants to do on the map.
And this top lane turret is dead to rights. It feels right now has 2 turret plates remaining. Steel could quite happy to come up here, drop the Herald, and then leave Kinatsu in a very dangerous position because a long lane versus a Tryndamere with Ghost and Ignite. I am very sorry, Kinatsu, you don't get to survive in that lane.
No. Exhaust, of course, only affects the one person too. It's not like you can use that on everyone that's coming towards you. Ebby has a Herald up in top as well. Oh my gosh. I mean, credit to DFM. This time they do understand their win condition. It is get the Tryndamere ahead. Very obvious with this champion what they do with the lead. This could very well be a early inner turret going down, but they're Kinatsu looking to defend the turret still.
Slashing, spinning, slash away. Get that. The order of those words, right? Slashing, spin.
Slashing, spin.
Yeah, that maybe in about 10 years when they're running out of ability names, that could be an option. But no, not quite yet.
It's opposite day. What do you mean Tryndamere does exactly the same thing?
He's just so happy he can't die.
Yeah. Oh god. Maybe he just like what would happen with the scream though? What would happen with the shout?
It's just like Pharrell Williams.
Oh no, it's not mocking shout anymore.
Happy.
It's not mocking shout anymore. He's just like, oh my god, I think you're so cool, and you get so embarrassed from the compliment that you drop your attack.
Could that just be like the bro laugh equivalent, but
bro?
But for Tryndamere?
I love your gains, bro. I love you, bro.
Bro,
positivity in this town. Chug your water. Be hydrated.
Gym rat Tryndamere. All right, Dasher might need to do some dashing, as he will have a
love you, bro.
mockingly shouted, and he's saying, Dasher, I love you, bro. Gale Force is there. Oh my god, he's so much dead. Does, of course, have Undying Rage. Blank now getting jumped on. Depth charge is there. Will get over just about. Audacious charge into auto attack. Get over the wall.
I'll get you next time, bro. Dasher goes down. And again, DFM, I like the fact that I like how DFM have continued to look in at the lanes, but it's been an efficient look in. You can see that still has fallen a little bit behind for the attempt, but Blank
that's quite aggro.
Yeah.
Of course, he had Bail out on top of him, courtesy of Renata for the additional attack speed. Old school blood boil, that
it is. And that's, it's kind of, remember how strong Jinzo is with the likes of your Yumi and your Lulus being buffed up. Renata does give you a lot of attack speed steroids to be able to go a little further in as, Dasher is introduced to the fraternity of DFM, Alpha Kappa, or just Kappa, I guess, if this is League of Legends.
It's Kek W.
I don't think that's how that works.
I know, it's just not a Greek alphabet, but the alphabet of League of Legends is a
Join
very
us for another drink, bro!
Mid laner! Vex is Vex, and she goes down.
Yeah, I mean, this is the whole epitome of Can you play safe mid? Absolutely not. Too many people.
There are so many ways to die for this champion, and so many ways to collapse. You can't play all 3 lanes right now.
And I love how DFM are looking into the lanes. They're not forcing the plays, but they're finding ways to get in and amongst it.
Absolutely. Our top lane turret is kind of where Kanatu has to stand right now. He's kind of caught out from this game, right? As far as he can do is just sit there and hope he doesn't get tired of. Just look at the gold discrepancy. That's 2,500 gold individually.
It is, and it's on the member, which stops. I was about to say Sengoku. Damn, the SG curse strikes me again. But the Hawks, rather.
It's because they're red side as well, so
it's so confusing. I'm very bad at like acronym association. Yep. I also like suffer from. I was about to say object permanence, but it's actually the opposite. Where if it's not on screen, things I
they don't exist anymore.
If they're not on screen, they
sometimes forget that I exist. If I don't leave the room, it's like, oh yeah, I have a brother as bot line.
Bro!
As Dasher try to play this one out onto Yarharong, but just not enough damage to work with. And a Spirit Rush reset will allow Yarharong a little bit of healing as well.
Oh, Dasher! I mean, we had talked about this player pre-game, and Kanatsu is a similar situation, turning it pretty well in this case, though.
There's an ultimate still available. He still doesn't pop it. That means the ult's down for Kanatsu, which means he's got to be very aware of where things go. And actually, the rest of Hawks being around probably means why Ebby's not going in for the whole 1v1 there, because it will be a 1v3 very quickly.
But we know that this top lane matchup is one that we have looked forward to a lot last year. It was our highlight matchup of the LJL, actually, in a lot of ways, because Ebby was finally against someone who could contend with them. But going back towards Dasher, pre-game, talked about how Dasher was expected to be a real super carry for the mid lane pool. We didn't know what to think of Jeb. We didn't know what to think of Yarharong. We thought that, as much as we'd lost Arya, we'd maybe see a bit of a dip in the level of play from the region, and Dasher would be at the forefront of the remaining mid laners. But as much as his laning phase has been solid, this game has not been, it's not really Dasher's fault, you gotta say, but you can understand why he's not been able to impact a lot of these games when the Hawks aren't necessarily there in time to protect him. He's not necessarily playing the respect to the lanes which he needs to. And Dasher very much struggling to live up to his pedigree here.
A loyalty program offering some shielding. Nice block there on the Super Mega Death Rocket.
They learn from CGA.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that was kind of the start of an attempted turnaround, really. Being able to do that kind of... and the fact that then Swap got in to be able to steal that away out.
Oh, Ebby's doing things.
Yeah, he is. He's just healing up occasionally here. Walking up at the tower and threatening and all. And he's got Ghost, he's got Ignite. With the Herald now secured as well, that's another big win. And I appreciate the ability to just hold onto your cards a little bit there from Ebby. Know that other things are happening for your team and saving that for a moment when you have a little bit more control.
So, speaking of saving things for the right moment, obviously DFM, they've not committed to 5v5s. I think that is correct. I don't think they should be going towards huge grouped up engagements. Well, no, as I say it, they were angling for it.
Remember, Kinatsu isn't here right now, so they might be able to join. Ooh,
Sean
good
misses.
flash there. Well, we have Frost is only the slow. Big chunk onto Reiner, who goes down here, surely. But it's a big turnaround there with a hostile takeover. The only one taken over right now is Reiner. Steal the back end of this in a trade with Dash struggling out. Blank into the backside, doing his best, but he falls down as Utapon claims that kill. Kinatsu will snip down the Nautilus, but that's it. And Blanks, sorry, not Blank, steals
the ghost
resets.
resets
And the ghost resets are indeed there. The mocking shout, it's fried chicken for dinner, and Dasher can dash no more.
Dasher left alone at the end of that fight. DFM, I was about to lament their play in this game. I was like, oh my gosh, no, they're going for a grouped up fight. This isn't what their comp wants to do. They want to wait for the Kai'Sa to get online before they do that, but they just play it out better. They catch the Hawks on a bit of an awkward position. They're not set up with the front line in front of them. You've got Reiner and Blank in amongst it, but Marble isn't in a safe spot. Has to blow the Gale Force early before actually anything of earnest is really started. Marble, how many auto attacks do they get off in this fight? 0 currently. They'll miss a W. This Jinx is meant to be there to start off this fight, and they get 4 auto attacks.
4th got cancelled because she died.
And this has been such a sticking point for the Hawks. Marble came in as another superstar rookie into the region. We talked about Kanatsu doing that for the Wrestle Jesters the last season, but Marble seriously struggling alongside the Hawks to really activate this carry's potential. We know he has it. We saw it in the Academy scene where he'd done so strong and a historically strong team for the LJL Academy region, but 414 damage is not what the Hawks needed to win out that fight.
Not at all. And instead, it's over 3,000 damage apiece for the solo laners of DFM and a healthy addition from Utapon to boot. And I think at this point, you probably can team fight because you can't survive long enough for Trinimir's ultimate to wear out. You can't survive through a Cataclysm as it stands, and with
You've got
two items on Ari.
Upgrade onto your Kai'Sa as well.
Who's
Now,
3-0-1,
about to get,
exactly.
you have the Q upgrade. You've got all 3 upgrades now onto your Kai'Sa. The Hawks start looking to go back to the 5v5s.
No.
Abby on a flank, but he is on vision.
Dasher over the wall can maybe make something happen. That's a decent Shadow Surge, but it's actually kind of semi-blocked out by the Spirit Rush, and Ebby at the back end of it murders Marble. He's lost them all, and now he's rolling down that tower, and it's Ebby who is coming to clean up the back end of this fight. There's just nothing you can do, and they knew he was there.
They knew he was there, knew he was on vision, and Marble walks into the Northern Assault. He wasn't clicked on him, it was clicked on someone just behind him. He walks into it, gets knocked up, flashes into the pit, can't get any auto attacks off again. The Hawks, they try and go towards a 5v5, but they are not coordinated about it. I mean, it's a difficult line to try and cross, right? Try and walk down, because I'm saying you're still like, okay, you know that the Trindam is here, but how much of this is DFM playing well? How much of this is them playing with a lead? How much of this is kind of the Hawks not playing it out fantastically? Because Marble, again, just can't fight. He just can't. He's not protected. It's not necessarily on him, but he doesn't necessarily give himself the best fighting chance either.
I mean, he was stuck between the wall, Ebby on the other side, and the Nautilus ult. There was nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. I mean, I don't think he was quite in a position to be able to flash the wall either. He wasn't quite far enough along. So it was just a disastrous position to be in as it stands. And it's led to another death. 0, 5, and 2 for Dasher as well, who has often been someone going in, but dying at the back end of it all. And he's been ganked a few times in mid. And he's also been a recipient of a lot of trauma in this game, bluntly, as the item discrepancies are very much in. It's 3 items for Ebby, with no surprise to anybody there, I'm sure. And Baron on top, second Drake was picked up, and 22 minutes in, DFM looking to be back to their imperious ways here in the LJL.
So 15-2, DFM with a staggering gold lead, and this is only going to get worse from the Hawks at this point. You're about to get the Merman transformation. At that point, you look
3
at the Hawks
stacks off.
It is literally a couple of seconds or 1 auto attack away from it. At that point, you're sat there thinking, well, we couldn't really fight back to front trying to do. I mean,
there
look at
it
that.
is.
W upgrade, got the mirror mana on top of it. Oh my gosh. Oh heck, that was pixels away from death.
With this build as well and the changes to Kai'Sa's Void Seeker, you hit one. The cooldown at this point of the game is next to nothing, about 3 seconds, I think. And you can just consistently chunk people out. As in the mid lane, Ebby just walks up, takes the inhibitor tower, now onto the inhibitor. These Void Seekers continuing to just
raining in.
Start coming through. It's long-range artillery, sniper shots from out of vision. There goes Steel, Cataclysm onto Dasher in the back end. Blank goes in, does get off the Crescent Guard, but it's a hostile takeover that doesn't really take over much more than a local cafe. And it's going to be all over but for the weeping. Another kill for Utapon. Nexus turrets remain, and Hawks, you've got to play this one down. Your mid laner, down so many players. As the Acathian rain brings down the pain. And of course, it's Nexus towers. Of course, you've got members alive, but I don't think for much longer. I don't think that the Hawks have anything to say. Their wings are click, and Detonation focus the whole enemy team, and they'll move to 12-1.
I'm going to do it with a little bit of fanfare, get themselves a shutdown onto the Trinidad. Nexus falls, DFM took a loss to Rascal Jesters, not reprising that against the Hawks, moving up to 12-1.
It was a coordinated win, a win that played to win conditions. And outside of, honestly, a slightly scuffed mid lane gank, everything else was pretty damn crisp across the board. You love to see it from a team like DFM.
And this was a game where we just saw Axes step up, move up to 4 wins. Now the Hawks are, once again, a rung behind them. They're going to have to find another way to fight back. And this is now pressure on them once more. They are currently out of those playoffs berths. They're very lucky it's a triple round robin. They're lucky to get some extra time to innovate, but it's not going to be easy.
The bird of prey becomes prey. It was always going to be a tough ask. Unfortunately for the Hawks, they weren't quite up to it today. DFM, well, turns out they're quite good, eh? We'll cut to a quick break, and when we come back, we'll break down this game with Matt Swan. And after that, we might even have some more games, some different faces on broadcast.
Crazy.
Stick around.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the LJL OU, where we announced that T1 went 15-0, if you didn't know that one. Anyway, with that said, Detonation FocusMe end up going to 11-1.
Yeah.
Sadly, not 12-0, but Rascal Jesters had something to say, and they send their regards. Gentlemen, the Hawks looked fine for the first 10 minutes. They even got first blood and first dragon. That's pretty good, isn't it, Initialize?
Yes, but again,
Am I reaching?
you could say, yeah. So this is the deal, right? Like they held on pretty well in the early game, but the moment their vision control fell away, they the communication lines weren't there. Ebby got however many free roams in mid lane. Dasher was basically spending his life being tower dove by a Tryndamere from by his Raptors, like from minute 10. What do you do?
Well, what you do is you have a jungler like Steel and not a jungler like Blank Nymera. That's what I would say.
Well, the thing is, I don't think you can pin this game on Blank. I mean, he turned up to the mid lane 2v2. He got the turnaround kills, and then he was in bot to help waves crash in. Part of this is just raw laning brutality kind of thing. It was one kill.
Disgusting.
It was one kill into that top lane matchup where Kanatsu misjudges the XP, doesn't get level 6, gets ganked, Tryndamere's ahead. And that was after Steel had ganked every other lane sequentially. Blank was ahead in that individual jungle matchup, but his lanes weren't quite stable enough to make things pop. And then once DFM were ahead of the curve, as you said, it translated into a vision lead. It translated into the Hawks lanes not being able to stabilize.
I know Lexi will want to take us somewhere else, but I do want to say on this quickly because I've got to call it out. I'm sorry. There is no way you didn't know Steel was coming this way. No way at all. He had been very obvious that even if he was on the Herald, he could definitely pull off. And you have to know, as a team, when to play back and play with your heads up and your eyes on the mini-map. You can't play heads down to keyboard like that. And the fact that Steel kind of got away with just roaming around the map and forcing summoners and taking control wards basically for free, like Blank's doing his job. You know where you know where Steel is. It shouldn't be that easy.
He's a magician. He did this to Blank, remember, back in 2020. This was how it all went down. This was finals. Remember the finals in 2020 summer where he basically did that 3 games through. And metagamed, remember, with the Trundle. Like, Steel is the omega brain of the LJL jungle. And he's done it once again to Blank. And rather, actually, the whole side of the Hawks. I want to take it to the mid lane matchup, Nymera, and come to you for this one because this was a match that was very important. And Dasher saw a huge amount of pressure from the side of Detonation FocusMe.
Yeah.
Why do you think that happened? And do you think there was anything he could have done about that?
So obviously the first part was in terms of outplaying the 2v2. Yeah. That was great. Good side steps. I think a lot of that was on DFM messing it up, but still you have to force the error sometimes, and he did that well. He was trading pretty okay. There was a point though where you get behind in this matchup and it is so swingy. Mainly though because of how the map falls behind. If you fall behind on the map and suddenly Tryndamere's in your lane, you've got the Jarvan in your lane. Actually, there's a Nautilus roaming up too. You can't outplay that. That is not on you. That is the play safe mid and then just like everyone turns up kind of meme, right? I do think that Dasher had an awkward couple of fights. I think that he overdove and misjudged his damage calculations a couple of times, which is bad on the Vex. But
what else do you do?
What else do you do?
Well,
this was a rough situation.
I know it doesn't look pretty, but I'm not sure there's anything else you get to do.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many small fundamental things which the Hawks did wrong to allow for the situation to happen. They didn't get pressure in bot. I wonder if that's actually a laning thing. I wonder if the Renata was too early picked. The top lane 1v1 fell apart. You're losing on both side lanes. Mid lane got kind of capitulated through that. This was like a whole team ensemble collapse.
I mean, I've got to come over to you and Initialize with this one. Hawks' average game time was significantly lowered just by this loss to DFM. What is really going on with that kind of angle? Because the Hawks seem to be struggling. They seem to have the first 10 minutes on lockdown, and then they just seem to really struggle to have any form of mid to late game. And this felt like a perfect example of that.
It is map awareness. We'll leave it at that.
Back to map awareness.
I think there's probably Not enough time to seriously break
No.
into it. And again, it was incredibly hard opposition. Like, the pressure you were under against the DFM was playing this well. And yes, they've dropped a game. Yes, Rascal Jester turned it around and stuff. But Rascal Jester are a phenomenal team as well. We know what they could do last year. So, like, I don't think this was ever going to be an easy game. It just turns out the DFM punish harder than most.
Sadly, even with the former Rascal Jester's top laner, they weren't able to find it with the Fukuoka SoftBank HAWKS Gaming, and they fall to a 3-10 record. Disappointing for them, but still a lot of time for comeback potential. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to a short break, but initialize Nightmare. Gentlemen, you're leaving me now.
No, it feels so sad. We're back together.
The
though,
fellowship is broken.
We'll try and get us back together soon.
We will. We're abso-friggin-lutely. We've got plenty more days, so we'll get them both back on with me. But coming onto the desk to replace these two lovely gentlemen is going to be Echo KO and Random Caster Minion.
Woo! Yeah!
Woo!
Let's freaking go, boys. Let's go to a break, but when we return, those two will be joining me for Sengoku versus Buddy Court. Oh, no.